Welcome to TYT's Indisputable. It is Adrienne Lawrence filling in for Dr. Richey. Happy Friday. And I'm very happy to be joining you today with my co-host, that's a Rebel HQ contributor and content creator, Jeff Wiggins. Thank you so much for joining us, Jeff. I know this is our first time being on together, and so I'm really excited to get all of your insight.
Let's have some fun.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. We're gonna have to start off by discussing some news that broke this morning down in Georgia. So prominent Georgia Republicans, they are likely on edge right now as the Fulton County DA put them on notice that they may go down with Donald Trump. That's right, news broke this morning that District Attorney Fani Willis, who is pictured here, well, she sent out a so-called target letter. And here is what we know about them per Yahoo News. In the latest sign, she is moving rapidly in her investigation into Donald Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis has sent so-called target letters to prominent Georgia Republicans, informing them that they could be indicted for their role in a scheme to appoint alternate electors pledged to the former president, despite Joe Biden's victory in the state, according to legal sources who are familiar with the matter. Now, with Willis being a Democrat in Georgia, this move has some really big implications, particularly because we're looking at Georgia being a battleground state, and also, given those impending elections in the fall. And let's look at who received those target letters. So this also per Yahoo News. Among the recipients of the target letters, the sources said are GOP state senator Burt Jones, Governor Brian Kemp's running mate for lieutenant governor, David Schaefer, the chairman of the Georgia Republican Party, and state senator Brandon Beach. Now, some of those names, at least two, may be pretty familiar to you, given their participation in trying to undermine the 2020 presidential election results. Jones and Schaefer were among those who participated in a closed-door meeting at the state capitol on December 14, 2020, in which 16 Georgia Republicans selected themselves as the electors for the state, although they had no legal basis for doing so. Schaefer, according to a source who was present, presided over the meeting, conducting it as though it was an official proceeding in which those present voted themselves the bona fide electors in Georgia and then signed their names to a declaration to that effect that was sent to the National Archives. So here are these two men that we were talking about, David Schaefer, chairman of the Georgia GOP, and Georgia Senator Burt Jones, who's also running for lieutenant governor. Now, although Willis would not comment on these target letters, she did definitely indicate that she's got more big moves in store, namely calling former President Donald Trump as a witness to testify before the special grand jury. It seems to be very much an option. Yes, said Willis when asked if there was any chance Trump may be called to testify. I think it's something that we are still weighing and evaluating. She also said she spoke to Dwight Thomas, a veteran local defense lawyer who has been retained to represent Trump as recently as Thursday. It really seems that Willis is on the move when it comes to holding people accountable for trying to undermine the 2020 presidential election and also those results there in Georgia. And I really enjoy seeing someone actually enforce the law. What about you, Jeff?
Well, I'm grateful that there's at least the possibility, maybe not the probability, that some charges will be brought about, because the future of our democracy is currently being, I don't know, policies and decision making being right now being some of the things that are coming out that are really going to, in 2024 and the 2022 midterms, question a lot. So hopefully, at least he can go and testify.
Yeah, you would definitely think that would be the case, particularly, since this is all about democracy. And if you say you are a quote unquote patriot or whatever really that means nowadays, but you would think that they'd want to uphold our system and be grateful to be a part of it in some way, especially if they're claiming that they're speaking truth. But as we're seeing with individuals like Lindsey Graham, who's also been subpoenaed, these individuals seem to want to dodge accountability in every single direction. He and his children will not be deposed today by the New York Attorney General's office after all that's been going on in the civil investigation into Trump's dynasty's business dealings. So after years of dodging the depositions, well, the Trumps, they were able to delay it yet again, but this time it was due to the death of Ivana Trump. That's a 73-year-old matriarch of the Trump family. Here's a picture of her. She was the former president's first wife and is the mother of Donald Trump Jr., Ivanka, and Eric Trump. She died in her apartment on the Upper East Side, and paramedics were called for a cardiac arrest. This is what we know per ABC News. Ivana Trump was found unconscious and unresponsive at the bottom of a set of stairs in her apartment, according to police sources. The police are investigating whether she fell, and if so, whether the fall contributed in any way to her death, the sources said. A medical examiner will determine her cause of death, police said. Now, the NYPD said they do not think that there is any criminality or wrongdoing going on related to her death. But when it came to her life, particularly with Donald Trump, what we know is definitely that Ivana helped build the Donald and his empire. She even coined that term, the Donald. They were married in 1977, but in a very expensive and very publicly nasty divorce. Their marriage ended in the early 90s, and it was driven in part because of Trump's affair with Marla Maples, who later became his second wife. Now, we know this per the New York Times obituary on Ivana Trump. So after almost a year of gossip and legal posturing, a court granted the couple a divorce in December 1990 on the grounds of cruel and inhumane treatment by Mr. Trump. But a bitter settlement fight ensued when Ms. Trump insisted that he owed her half of his fortune, not knowing, perhaps, that he was close to bankruptcy at that time. It really just very much seems kind of be in Donald Trump style to, well, definitely mistreat women, but then also to be manufacturing this aura of wealth that he doesn't not necessarily have. Yeah. It definitely seems to be the case. Anyway, in terms of Ivana's death, the Trumps released statements, including this one. Ivana Trump was a survivor. She fled from communism and embraced this country. She taught her children about grit and toughness, compassion and determination, the family said. She will be dearly missed by her mother, her 3 children, and 10 grandchildren. And obviously, Donald Trump, in his statement that he put out on Truth Social, when it came to the death of his wife, it really seemed to maybe be one that was inching toward donations. He first tweeted on his social Truth Social, I'm very saddened to inform all of those that loved her, of which there were many, that Ivana Trump has passed away at her home in New York City. She was a wonderful, beautiful, and amazing woman who led a great and inspirational life. Her pride and joy were her 3 children, Donald Jr., Ivanka, and Eric. She was so proud of them, as we were all so proud of her. Rest in peace, Ivana. Yeah, and of course, that Truth Social post made its way into an email seeking donations for his Save America PAC. Yeah. Without a doubt, I don't doubt it in any way. Just to give you a chance, Jeff, how does all of this sit with you?
Everything with this man is transactional. The grift continues despite something tragic that is happening with him and his kids. There is no end to this man trying to raise money for himself. This has nothing to do with the election. This has nothing to do with saving America. It has everything to do with his pockets, as we've seen over the last few years.
Exactly, and it's a sympathy grift as far as I'm concerned. As you saw, the fact that the New York court grants you a divorce on inhumane treatment, and a lot of people who lived in New York during that time remember the things that he would do to her during the divorce and how he treated her, despite the fact that it was wholly evident that she helped build his empire in toto, and he would not have anything that he had, even though it sounds like he didn't have much at the end of the day when it came to the divorce, but he wouldn't have anything he has today without her. And in addition to giving him his 3 children, it just, he did her dirty in life, and it really seems that also in death. And of course, Donald Trump is also still choosing to leverage her death to his benefit, because we know that in light of Ivana's death, the Trumps, including Donald, asked the New York AG, Letitia James's office, to postpone all 3 of today's depositions. That is the depositions for Donald Trump, Don Jr., and Ivanka. And although the AG's office went ahead and agreed to postpone them, well, the New York AG, she let them know, hey, this isn't over. And this statement was issued in part. This is a temporary delay, and the depositions will be rescheduled as soon as possible. There is no other information about dates or otherwise to provide at this time. We offer our condolences to the Trump family. That was a very classy thing to give them that pause and that break, especially because when people testify, you want them to be at their best, shall we say. And it just makes sense in terms of the process, particularly for the two children of Ivana Trump, as the way in which Don Jr. has spoken about his mother. I've never actually heard Ivanka speak about her mother, but I'd like to think that those kids did love their mother very much. And so I could see why they definitely would need to take a break from the deposition. But when it comes to her ex-husband, Donald Trump, it's really hard to believe that he's all that broken up, especially when he's not canceling his Save America rally and he's clearly seeking donations for his PAC off of her death, knowing that he had divorced her some 30 years ago. What do you think, Jeff?
It's very classy, as you said, for New York to do what they did as far as delaying the deposition, but justice still needs to prevail in this situation. And so the fact that he's not delaying or canceling anything else except for that lets you know that the grift is still ongoing. So God bless the Trump family in this regard, but they need to come back and testify.
No, without a doubt. And so, take your time to mourn, to heal. But the reality is justice needs to be pursued. And hopefully justice will actually prevail in those circumstances, because we know that the Trumps have been engaged in all sorts of misconduct and mayhem, essentially to the detriment of our nation. We do know that the Secret Service erased text messages from January 5th and January 6th, 2021. Now that came according to a letter given to the January 6th committee, and it happened to be reviewed by The Intercept. According to our former TYTer, Ken Klippenstein, we know this. The letter was originally sent by the Department of Homeland Security Office of Inspector General to the House and Senate Homeland Security committees. Though the Secret Service maintains that the text messages were lost as a result of a device replacement program, the letter says the erasure took place shortly after oversight officials requested the agency's electronic communications. It's unclear from the letter whether all of the messages were deleted or just some. Department officials have also pushed back on the oversight office's records request by arguing that the records must first undergo review by DHS attorneys, which has delayed the process and left unclear if the Secret Service records would ever be produced. This really seems to say a lot because the federal government, law enforcement, they seem to be able to locate all sorts of text messages to be able to recover them, do all sorts of backflips and bends of technology to be able to obtain data. And yet when they get a request for data of their own records, all of a sudden, number one, it gets deleted thereafter, but it doesn't seem that maybe it can be recovered. That's odd. Yeah. Well, the communication with then Vice President Mike Pence on January 6th would be something that we would like to have, and I'm sure the 1-6 committee as well. That day, then Vice President Mike Pence was at the Capitol to certify the results. When rioters entered the building, the Secret Service tried to whisk Pence away from the scene. Had Pence entered the vice presidential limo, he would have been taken to a secure location where he would have been unable to certify the presidential election results, plunging the US into uncharted waters. That's so incredibly interesting how Secret Service was trying to usher him in that direction. Now, Tony Arnado, that's a Secret Service agent with whom Trump made the unprecedented decision to appoint as the deputy White House chief of staff. Well, he was allegedly involved in an attempt to spirit away Pence on January 6th. Arnado remains in a leadership position at the agency in this time, which is very interesting. So this, per the Intercept article, Arnado informed Pence's national security advisor, Keith Kellogg, on January 6th that agents would relocate the VP to Joint Base Andrews in Maryland. You can't do that, Tony, Kellogg reportedly told Arnado. Leave him where he's at. He's got a job to do. I know you guys too well. You'll fly him to Alaska if you have a chance. Don't do it. Wow, that's right. So the head there of Secret Service was essentially looking for ways in which to maybe not allow Mike Pence to be there to certify the election? Interesting. So according to CNN, well, a DC policeman is also able to confirm Cassidy Hutchinson's story of Trump's arguments with Secret Service workers, something also that text messages would have helped prove in some way. So Casey Hutchinson said that she heard a secondhand account told to her by then White House Deputy Chief of Staff, Tony Ornato, that Trump was so enraged at his Secret Service detail for blocking him from going to the Capitol on the day of the insurrection that he reached up toward the front of the vehicle to grab the steering wheel and then used his free hand to lunge towards Secret Service lead agent Robert Engel. It seems there are so many pieces to this puzzle, and some of them are being hidden, interestingly enough, by those who are charged with protecting and serving our nation and our highest leaders. It almost seems like they may be involved or invested in some way in maybe advancing this coup attempt on our nation. That definitely seems to be what I'm picking up. Jeff, are you picking that up too?
The good old, we've investigated ourselves and found little to no wrongdoing trick, as if we've never seen that out of law enforcement or the government agencies before. If I may, going back to that article from The Intercept, I want to point out what Representative Jamie Raskin out of Maryland said. He called Pence's terse refusal, "I'm not getting in the car," the 6 most chilling words of this entire thing I've seen so far. What would have happened had he gotten in that car? And then subsequently, information, text messages, data would of course been deleted at that time. I don't want to think that far, but that's pretty frightening.
Yeah, absolutely frightening, particularly because this thought that there is this internal effort beyond just the president and the president's men trying to orchestrate this coup, and also putting individuals' lives in jeopardy as well as our democracy. And yet so many of those people remain employed with the government. They remain in positions where they're supposed to be protecting our current members of administrations. This is very, very terrifying. And I'm not shocked at all when it comes to members of the Secret Service possibly being involved with Donald Trump and helping orchestrate this coup, as we've all known for a long time. And what, as Ray just said, some of those that work forces are the same that burn crosses. Let's be real here. We're not going to pretend that the agenda is no different simply because they are at a more elite level when it comes to law enforcement. When you look at Secret Service, still at 80% white, the vast majority men, just like we have in most law enforcement agencies throughout the United States. You can't just tell me because you have certain security clearances that all of a sudden any interest you have in maintaining white male supremacy flies out the door. That's not the case at all. And I think that we need to definitely be honest about that when it comes to those in positions of power in our nation, especially when it comes to unearthing more details about who was behind this coup and who should be held responsible. Any final words, Jeff?
Democracy is at hand. The 22 midterms and the 2024 election, with Donald saying that he's made his decision, but he's not going to say it publicly right now. Everything's in the balance right now. Like, I can't stress that enough. I don't think any of us can. Like, it's for real, and we need to be paying attention, and there needs to be some accountability moving forward.
Absolutely, and we do definitely need to vote in these midterms and to vote in a way that moves us closer toward hopefully seizing back some of the democracy or semblance of democracy that we initially had and that we should continue to have moving forward. If we don't, otherwise, it's just going to continue to go down this path where we have individuals who are willing to participate in a coup and put our country on a devastating path. They're going to be in positions of power. All right, well, we will be back very soon. And as Dr. Richey would say, stick and stay. Welcome back to Indisputable. It is Adrienne Lawrence filling in for Dr. Richey, and we have some exciting news for you. That's right, I'm talking about the watch list. You best know about the watch list. You're gonna join JR live weekdays at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. For everything you need to know and what you need to be watching on the regular. That's right. We're talking about daily, and you can go ahead and follow it at facebook.com/watchlistTYT, as well as on YouTube. YouTube.com at WatchlistTYT. And also, while you're on YouTube and Facebook, definitely check out Rebel HQ, where you can check out the latest from me and David Schuster. That's right. We are going to be breaking down high-profile legal cases in the news, misogynoir, all sorts of breaking news stories about policing systems and so much more. So subscribe on youtube.com/rebelhq. Now let's go ahead and see what y'all got to say in your comments. Well, from TYT members, we are getting in from Trump's deposition being delayed. Len says, same reasons the US divorced Trump from his presidency. Interesting. Cray Cray Souffle says, profiting from his ex-wife's death. What an off the chart serious scumbag. Mickey C, the silver-haired dragon, said it wouldn't surprise me if Trump paid to Epstein Ivana so they could get out of the depositions. You ain't the only one out there wondering how timely her death is for the Trump family. And Ivana Trump, this is from V, says Ivana Trump was a force to be reckoned with. May she rest in peace. I hope she slaps him from the grave for bastardizing her in death for donations. So uncouth. I actually find that to be very interesting, the thought of slapping someone from the grave, and I'm not necessarily against it. And also, let's see. So from YouTube, I'm seeing May Money in the building with the $2. Thank you, Adrienne. You rock. I'm sending you a gifty, much appreciated. Thank you kindly. Also, EUC from Lucifer says, here's an idea for Dr. Richey: merge Indisputable brand super glue. It sticks and stays. I can dig that. Also, about Trump's deposition being delayed, La Pinche Chismosa says, don't get mad, get everything. Yep, Ivana Trump, First Wives Clubs. Yeah, I definitely dig that film. As far as DA Fani Willis sending target letters to the Trump allies. Well, Ching 3871 says, yes, let's go. The DOJ needs to follow her lead. Absolutely, somebody get Merrick Garland on the phone because something needs to actually be done. As far as Trump's deposition getting delayed, Fiddle and Nero says, has anyone seen any signs of empathy that she taught Dawn, Eric, and Ivanka? Don't ask me. As far as Secret Service deleting the January 6th text after the inquiry, It's Just Vegas says, yo, she just quoted Rage Against the Machine. Yeah, I did. You're damn right I did. Are you kidding? Rage should be taught in most colleges because they on top of it. Powwow Nobody says Secret Service is an investigative branch. They have to follow the same rules as any other. They have to maintain documents for discovery purposes. The fact that they allowed anything to be deleted, much less January 6th content, is very telling. Oh, it'll tell you everything. Without a doubt. Again, like I said, you can't tell me that just because they're at that elite law enforcement level that all of a sudden they're going to go ahead and be blind to the white male patriarchy and maintaining its existence. Get out of here, I ain't got time. Speaking of all sorts of white supremacy, white patriarchy, yeah, I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel great, back off!
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Okay.
Come on.
I hear you.
Come on.
That is show in court. Oh, I like your sign, by the way, too. No allowed.
That's right.
I like that.
You don't belong back there.
I don't belong back there.
No, you don't.
So
You're
what?
renting back.
Why would you rent to me if you're a racist? Why would you put a sign up there saying no? What are you? What's wrong with you? What?
That's what I mean. You do not go back to that bar. And
So you're going to say no allowed? So you're going to say no allowed, cowboys and girls?
That's right. That's cowboys and cowgirls only. You're not allowed back there. You in that, not back there.
Me and that, as in like what?
That hut.
That what?
You stupid. You don't understand. That hut.
That hut?
Yeah.
I don't know what a hut is, honestly, other than an Indian hut. But you realize you're being recorded right now, right?
I don't care.
And you're sitting here calling me a and everything else.
What are you? What are you?
I'm an African-American male.
Yeah, that was an oldie but goodie. And the fact is that racism never dies. It is very much alive and well. It's so incredibly sad because I think what we picked up on from that video is that that man is her tenant in some way. And the fact that she said go back to that hut, that almost tells you that she doesn't consider maybe the area or the structure that she's renting from him to be worthy and fit for human use. Yet she's renting it to this man and she's having a sign up to saying no N-words allowed. Like it's appalling and it's disgusting. But I really hope that he was able to, show her what the score is by way of that tenancy and getting the hell out of there. Jeff.
Did she say no, only cowboys and only cowgirls, as if black people can't be either of those things?
Don't get me started.
The confusion I have right now to everything, which by the way, that must have been a very old Karen video, but that was the first time I've ever seen it. Yeah, and the hut thing was interesting as well. Like, is that what she thinks Black people in Africa only live in and only are required for us in this country? Karens aren't bright. Like, I'm not gonna pretend that, but that is a level lower than I once realized for Karens. Like, that was a lot of dumb as well as racism.
Oh, without a doubt. And and it's like also being so open about it. I actually prefer the overt ones over the covert ones, because the covert ones will sneak up on you and that can be very scary. But the ones that just let you know without a doubt, that is somewhat relieving. It's very disheartening because of the level of ignorance. But then again, if you have to think that you are racially superior in some way, you're not the smartest cookie on the block to begin with.
I wonder how many Black, brown, or Native people were living within her neighborhood to where she thought she needed to put that sign up. Honestly, by the looks of things, she probably isn't encountering very much, but she still felt the need to put that sign up, as you said, to let everyone know who she is and what she's about. Shame her.
Yep, without a doubt. And I do hope that her neighbors and those around her shame her. But it seems that she is very open and comfortably open about her racism, and the fact that she's still there and able to thrive probably tells you that her community as well may even support that kind of behavior. Speaking of communities that support racism, well, let's talk about that beautiful blue state that I'm from, California. Yeah, so a recent new study has shown that really despite the local reform efforts, police profiling has gotten worse in California. And the data provided by the state attorney general, well, it reveals the following per the San Francisco Chronicle. Black people are far more likely to be stopped by police than white people, and that the disparity widened in 11 of the state's 15 biggest law enforcement agencies from 2019 to 2020 is very much a reality for many of us living in California. Now, Black people were nearly 6 times more likely to be stopped by police than white residents in 2020 when you factor in the relative city populations of the racial groups. Now, in Oakland, Black people were 5.3 times more likely to be stopped. Sacramento, where I'm from, Black people were 3.7 times more likely to be stopped. This graphic here really seems to say it all. And as you may imagine, there's also disparities in contraband searches of those who are stopped. Yeah, so also per the Chronicle, despite being stopped and searched far more often than white people, Black people in California were less likely to be found carrying contraband, the data shows. They were, however, more likely to have force used against them. You cannot tell me that racism isn't alive and well even in these blue states and territories. That's right, because it doesn't matter your political party. Racism is something that is everywhere. It infiltrates regardless of how you vote. Now, a police reform advocate from Oakland, his name is John Jones III. He pointed to a fundamental flaw in California's attempt really to fight racial profiling. He noted that the states quantify the extent of the bias that he and other Black people are facing, but he says that California hasn't pursued aggressive measures to prevent it. In an interview, Jones shared his own experience with law enforcement. He recounted in 2015 that there was an incident in which he was pulled over driving home from a Warriors game at Oracle Arena. He said 6 Oakland police officers approached his car with their guns and flashlights drawn. The officers, he said, told him they had pulled him over because he was driving a new Toyota Corolla with a paper license in the window, not a metal license plate, and because he was in a rough area of East Oakland. Yeah, that definitely sounds pretextual without a doubt. The fact that he was driving with having the DMV issued tags that you're supposed to have when you're awaiting your license plates. Anyway, the issue with the data is really that it's solely based on police reports, which makes it really difficult to verify the accuracy of that data itself. It's also not uncommon for police to report incomplete and false data. So this is also what we know. For example, the Los Angeles Police Commission's Inspector General reviewed 0.2% of over 700,000 stops that the LAPD made in 2019, and they found officers did not account for all of their actions, most often searches, in about 18% of the stops. That's according to RIPA's 2022 report. This says a lot. So if 20% of just stops alone are not being fully reported, you can't tell me that the data is going to be solid and sound so that you can even use it in some way to help curb this racist pretextual behavior, because that's exactly what is going on here when you have Black people being stopped at far higher rates than white people, yet being less likely to actually have contraband, yet still being more likely to face inappropriate and excessive uses of physical force from police. Jeff.
I so badly want to make fun of the fact that you're from California, but I have no room to talk. I'm clearly from Ohio and I wear it daily. So look, we know that Black and white people use and sell drugs at similar rates, and you can still see these numbers as indicative of racism. But I want to point out a Stanford study from May of 2020, because I use it all the time because people call these things into question. It says the largest ever study of alleged racial profiling during traffic stops has found that Blacks, who are pulled over more frequently than whites by day, are much less likely to be stopped after sunset when a quote veil of darkness mask their race. Just in case anybody is wondering that, if the lopsided numbers towards Black people getting harassed and arrested and stopped by cops has anything to do with violence or criminality, it doesn't. We already know what's going on. It's just plain old racism. I don't know why we can't name it and label it and say what it is.
So are you saying from this Stanford study that when they can't tell that we're Black, we're less likely to get stopped? So essentially, when I darken the windows of my car, that can help in some way?
I have very dark window tint in my car, and in Ohio, I'm probably past the legal limit. But yes, Adrienne, darken your tint so they won't notice who you are at night, and you're less likely to be stopped.
Absolutely, and I will also say that there are other forms of biases that can come into play when it comes to police. For example, as a Black woman, I'm well aware of what I look like, and I actually teach on the subject of beauty bias. And so when it comes to police, I don't have a problem. I have no problem whatsoever. And I know why that is when it comes to law enforcement getting pulled over, because I get out of tickets and I don't have to do anything, nothing at all. And so I know there are other forms of bias. Also, driving a luxury car, the fact that I speak quote unquote proper English from my private school days, these are all forms of bias that when people don't necessarily check those boxes, the level of injustice they can face it's absolutely disgusting, and it is wrong, and we're seeing it play out each and every day. And unfortunately, there's nothing being done by our system, yet people continue to suffer. Jeff, any last thoughts?
Well, an additional form of bias is just being poor, living in poverty. And unfortunately in this country, because of laws and policies in the past and present, the face of poverty is Black people. So if you do not drive a luxury car, or you do not look like you have money, you are more likely to get pulled over because you may have a tail light out, or you may not have your license and registration. And then that's when some of the dangerous and destructive things from getting stopped and being pulled over can happen, such as excessive violence or just being pulled over for no reason. So that is an additional bias in addition to everything you just stated.
Yes, without a doubt. And it's really disheartening how these people in positions of power, these members of law enforcement, are exerting their biases and really just taking advantage of people to continue to hold down those who are most marginalized among us. Well, we will have more for you in terms of the latest news and the things you should stay abreast of when we get back. And as Dr. Richey says, stick and stay. Welcome back to Indisputable. It is Adrienne Lawrence filling in for Dr. Richey. And if you're listening to podcasts out there, well, you definitely need to check out what TYT has to offer. That's right. You can find shows like Indisputable, The Damage Report, The Young Turks Main Show, The Conversation, Situation Room, and so many more. Wherever you get your podcasts, that's Apple, Spotify, Google. Get it, whatever you do, get it. Definitely follow, like, review, give it all. That's right, support TYT. And let's talk to some of you TYT members. Well, as far as a racist Karen goes, Lynn says, even racist Karen's dogs are white. Yeah, it was kind of interesting. The Octo Squiddy says, Adrienne teaching a course on RATM sounds like the best time ever. I don't necessarily know what RATM is, but I'm sure I will stop and figure out that acronym at some point. Fascist Killer says, well, she had a maniacal laugh like Tucker Carlson, for real. Sweet Peas, thank you for the $5 donation. Seeing that craxist or cracist woman reminds me that the white supremacy bar is low, quite so. Bush I Do Bowl says, historically speaking, most cowboys were black and brown. That is for damn sure. But some groups like to steal things from other groups and claim that they're the originators. See Michael Henson with the $5 donation says that Karen just proved one thing. The biggest two problems in this country is corporate greed and racism. Old racists like her keep the cycle going. Yeah, for real. As far as a racial profiling study goes, Mickey C. the Silver-Haired Dragon says, and many cities, mainly in the South, no longer list the race of the people they've stopped to get around the proof of their racism. Interesting. Drenger Dragon says, and how much civil forfeiture is underreported as well? Hey now, that's a whole different story and a big one for sure. I wish a dragon would. Adrienne Law in the house. The damage report in Indisputable is my favorite double dose of the day. In honor of my new handle is I wish a dragon would. I like it. Prince of Judah 79 says, especially on the first of the month and end of the month, police pull you over more. Interesting. Lynn says, for whatever reason, police are extremely smart for not effing with Adrienne. I'd like to think so. May Money in the building for the $5 donation. Thank you. It says, which queen of Oakland, dragon born and raised, 5-0 are quick to pull you over here, but when you call them, they won't show up. And that is a damn shame because I know you are paying your taxes and you are entitled to being protected and served as they're supposed to be doing. But we're seeing a lot of jurisdictions not necessarily doing what they should be to serve people, instead serving their own just really pathetic motives. And that includes Texas, because it's struggling right now just to sustain electrical power, but it is finding plenty of time to use its political power to try to control women's bodies in particular. Well, Republican Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton sued the Biden administration this week over federal rules that require abortions to be provided in medical emergencies. That's right. When it comes to saving the life of the mother, no, Paxton isn't here for it. And here's good old Ken Paxton there you go. Yeah, he's been the cause of a lot of issues. And so the backstory of this lawsuit filed by Texas AG, well, we turn to the Washington Post. The suit follows new guidance from the Department of Health and Human Services that asserts federal law requiring emergency medical treatment supersedes any state restrictions on abortion in cases where the pregnant patient's life or health is at risk. Earlier this week, the Biden administration sent a memo to state officials reminding them of an existing law called the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act, which requires that all patients receive an appropriate medical screening examination, stabilizing treatment and transfer if necessary, according to the HHS guidance. Now, this requirement, it exists irrespective of any state laws, any mandates that apply to specific procedures. And although the federal decree focuses on abortions and emergency situations, well, Texas officials like Paxton, they're interpreting it as transforming every emergency room into a walk-in abortion clinic. That's right. So this is Paxton's response. The administration has a hard time following the law, and now they are trying to have their appointed bureaucrats mandate that hospitals and emergency medicine physicians perform abortions. I will ensure that President Biden will be forced to comply with the Supreme Court's important decision concerning abortion, and I will not allow him to undermine and distort existing laws to fit his administration's unlawful agenda. Now, remember, this Emergency Medical Treatment and Active Labor Act, it's already law. It's been law. It's been the game since day one. All of the Biden administration was doing this week is providing guidance to clarify the duties under it. This according to the Texas Tribune. In no uncertain terms, we are reinforcing that we expect providers, by the way, this is from the US Health and Human Services Secretary. In no uncertain terms, are we reinforcing that we expect providers to continue offering these services and that federal law preempts state abortion bans when needed for emergency care. Under the law, no matter where you live, women have the right to emergency care, including abortion care. Now, still, Paxton doesn't want to believe this. He's saying in his lawsuit that the guidance includes a number of new requirements to the provisions of abortion that don't exist under existing federal law. In addition to this, the Biden administration warned that if a hospital fails to provide emergency abortion treatment when necessary, which would be a violation of federal law, it could be fined or have its Medicare status revoked. Now, these hospitals are now threatened with having to choose between violating state law under the threat of criminal penalty or jeopardizing their ability to participate in Medicaid. Paxton's office argued in the suit. Now, it's no surprise, but obviously the White House has denounced Paxton's attempt to block the national mandate. And the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, she tweeted this: the Attorney General's lawsuit is yet another example of an extreme and radical Republican elected official. It is unthinkable that this public official would sue to block women from receiving life-saving care in emergency rooms, a right protected under US law. Yeah, that's right. Paxton will come up with whatever's necessary to really advance his agenda, which is white male supremacy. So if that means that a number of women's lives are jeopardized and they would possibly die, I think he's completely okay with that. Jeff?
Further indication that this was never about lives. This was never about the loss of life or babies in mothers' wombs. This is about shutting down women's options in life. This isn't providing necessary care. This isn't providing prenatal care. This isn't providing IUDs, contraception, sex education, all the things that typically reduce abortions. It was never about that. So this is just letting us know, as you said earlier, Adrienne, about the racist Karen. This is letting us know who they actually are. So I'm glad they're saying it out loud.
Yeah, me too, without a doubt. You would really want for people to want to protect other people's lives, or even just to invest their resources in doing what their constituents want done. But then you have these rogue officials who are willing out here just essentially sacrificing people to maintain their agenda. And it's incredibly disheartening when it comes to healthcare. Police investigator has been put on desk duty following an altercation with an EMT outside of an emergency department at Strong Memorial Hospital. Now, fortunately, we do have the security camera footage showing the altercation at issue. And as you see here, they are in an area for the EMT providing the assistance, and you see the investigator there handcuffing her when she is trying to tend to a patient.
Adrienne, beautiful color commentary. I expect you to be on the ABC News or the ESPN basketball color commentary soon.
Thank you, I really appreciate that. I was doing the best I could in that. I really loathe color commentary, but you do what you can with security camera footage. But we do have some background on the incident, and this is per the local news station. The investigator's car was parked in the ambulance bay in front of the emergency room when an EMT hit it while operating her door to unload a patient. Now, the ambulance bay in front of the emergency room is typically reserved for ambulances only. But the investigator thought, well, I'm gonna go ahead and park here, planning to go inside for a case. Yeah, so sources tell NBC 10 News that the investigator insisted on getting the EMT's identification, and she insisted on bringing the patient inside first. Well, the woman, the EMT, kept moving with the man on the stretcher, and when she was at the check-in desk, she was approached by the investigator. Her arm pulled behind her back and cuffed before forcefully being taken outside to a police car. The EMT was released from custody. She wasn't charged or ticketed. So it almost seems like it was entirely performative, especially for this officer who was in the wrong by parking in that emergency EMT lane where people bring people who really need aid for that emergency room. So why he decided to park there for his case because he couldn't park in a parking lot is beyond me. Anyway, following the incident, the Rochester Police Department told News 10 NBC that the investigator in the video has been placed on administrative assignment, and at the direction of Chief Smith, the Professional Standards Section is currently conducting an internal investigation. And we got a response from the ambulance team. Well, a spokesman for Monroe Ambulance says that the agency is waiting for the outcome of the RPD, Rochester Police Department investigation, but does believe its EMT was appropriately, singularly focused on patient care. You damn right she was. She said, "I'll get to you, officer, after I make sure this man gets the care he needs." That is what we should be focused on, patient care. And what we definitely also need to be focused on now, hopefully that gentleman got the care he needed, is what we are going to do with this officer, because I would say strip him of his powers, because clearly he likes to abuse them. But that decision is something that will be considered, or hopefully considered, by the Rochester police chief. That's this man here, David Smith. Now he's supposed to be overseeing the investigation of his own officer, who he has not identified, because of course, why release the name? That only furthers accountability. But in the meantime, we all waited with bated breath, because again, the reality is this officer had no problem abusing his power to the detriment of a local citizen who needed care. And also the fact that he's willing to just park in the EMT bay as though no one else needed it. It really shows that this person should not have any kind of licensure when it comes to law enforcement. Jeff.
You know, a sad reality of the American experience is I'm sure that New York cop's car had insurance, was insured. I'm just wondering if that patient who needed care, I wonder if they had health insurance while this New York cop was going above and beyond just to arrest someone, when really he could have waited until all of this was over, or filed a report for the precinct that he works in. But instead, as you said earlier, Adrienne, this was performative. This was a reach by him, and I'm hoping that justice will prevail and he can be relieved of his duties.
Yeah, because I'm sure if you look at his background and history, I'm sure he got other complaints from other citizens, because this ain't a one-off when you so willingly park in an EMT bay. And then when the emergency vehicle, the ambulance, it hits you by way of when the doors open to allow the patient to come out. That's how his car was hit. It really does show you that this person abuses power, likely on the regular. So let's be real about whether we want this person to continue to remain in their position moving forward. We will have to wait and see. And also we will be back. So as Dr. Richey says, stick and stay. It's Adrienne Lawrence. Welcome back to Indisputable. I am filling in for Dr. Richey on this fine Friday. And after this edition of Indisputable, well, you are in for a treat, because I'm talking about Ben Carollo. That's right, with Galaxy Brain, it is coming up. Now, Ben Carollo's brain, well, you know, it is out of this world. So make sure you join her today on Galaxy Brain as she talks through important stories of the day. That's tune in at twitch.tv/TYT. That's after Indisputable today at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. And let's hear from y'all out there, from the TYT members. As far as it goes with Texas suing the Biden administration, Mickey C. the Silver-Haired Dragon says Texas AG Ken Paxton is such a law and order Republican that he was indicted for felony securities fraud over 7 years ago. Why has he not been arrested? Why no trial after all this time? That's interesting. I'd like to know myself. Anti-Republican and progressive voter says, I am throwing in the towel over this topic, because if folks don't vote Abbott out, then they are complicit to their oppression in Texas. Absolutely. It's like, if anything, just the fact that he can't keep the electricity grid running. Come on. Tiffany Powell says, so he wants women to die. You're damn right. Dana Manning, guardian angel, says, yep, I've worked many med mal cases where EMTLALA was violated, representing the plaintiffs, of course, yeah. For the EMT helping a patient handcuffed by New York. Well, I think not only that EMT should sue, but also the patient, if she could, that'd be great. From the cleric of truth, he wanted to qualify she to be there. Let me break your arm so I know you're supposed to be here. Jax Drax said the fragile sensitivity of police, if they feel even remotely slighted, they go full out authoritarian, for real. Just this sense of entitlement of I can park wherever I want, even if it means other people aren't gonna get the health care that they need in emergency situations. And let me go ahead and punish you, an emergency care provider, like get out of here. Candace the Leo said someone should have given him a donut and a coffee or something. No, they need to give him an unemployment notice, send his ass somewhere, because he damn sure shouldn't be in the position he's in. And there are other people who I question whether they should be in their position, and that is Seattle prosecutors, because they've announced that they are declining to to file criminal charges against a man who allegedly threatened to kill US Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. Yeah. She's represented Washington's 7th congressional district since becoming the first Indian American woman elected to Congress in 2016. Now, you may recognize her from this photo here, as you often may have seen her with the squad. And let's look at how this incident unfolded in terms of how it came to law enforcement attention. This is what we know per the Seattle Times. Seattle police arrested the man outside Jayapal's house in the Arbor Heights neighborhood at 11:25 p.m. on Saturday after she had called 911. Reported an unknown person or people were in a vehicle outside using obscene language, according to the probable cause statement released after the man's first court appearance on Monday. Now, she told the dispatcher her husband thought someone may have fired a pellet gun, but he wasn't sure, the statement said. Officers found the man standing in the middle of the street with his hands in the air and a .40 caliber handgun holstered on his waist. The probable cause statement said police detained the man and secured the gun. Now, a neighbor told police that she heard the man yell something to the effect of, "Go back to India, I'm going to kill you," the statement said. The neighbor also saw and heard the man drive by Jayapal's residence at least 3 times, yelling profanity, according to the statement. Now, the suspect, this man, is 48-year-old Brett Allen Forsell. Now, he was released after being arrested because prosecutors, they said they just didn't have enough evidence to confirm that he told Jayapal to go back to India or threatened to kill her. But the the Seattle police, they were able to at least maybe do a little bit of something. And this is also what we know per the Times. Seattle police on Wednesday obtained a temporary extreme risk protection order to require the man to surrender his firearms and concealed pistol license, citing concerns about his escalating behavior toward Jayapal and increasing struggles with his mental health. That's what the court's record showed. Now, a police investigation, however, reveals that this Forrestal gentleman, he's previously tried to harass Jayapal. Police learned that the man sent an email to her public account in January saying that he didn't like her because of her perceived political wrongdoings. The petition said he has also driven by her house and shouted obscenities at her multiple times since late June, according to the petition. The petition notes that the man told officers that he wanted to purchase an assault rifle for protection, but denied saying anything about Jayapal's ethnicity or threatening to kill her. That's really interesting here. And you know what? It's also very unfortunate in terms of not being able to get her any kind of protection or justice, because we definitely do know that it would be beneficial, it seems, based on these facts as they were shared to us in that probable cause statement, especially with the neighbor saying that they did indeed hear him threaten her. But we do know that Jayapal's office released a statement acknowledging the incidents, but they had no comment moving further, which is pretty much all they can do. Jeff.
Whenever there's a tragedy in this country involving a firearm, we hear about the mental health aspect of things versus the gun issue. So thus far, he has relinquished his guns and his firearms, which is great. That's a great start. And they're claiming that he may have some mental health issues. So about A, let's give him the care he needs, and B, make sure he never gets his hand on a gun again. In addition to getting that representative, that politician, the help or the care she needs as well. She's gonna need protection because apparently some people are just in broad daylight being racist in front of other people, witnesses providing testimony, and still nothing is happening. So all 3 of those things should go down from here on out.
No, it definitely would seem to be something that you would expect. The fact is that this man clearly has a history of, to some extent, what appears to be stalking her, harassing her, having mental health issues. Also, he's seeking out firearms. Based on the neighbor's account, he threatened to kill her. Also, there was that racial motive there. Yet police are like, sorry, we don't know what to do. What am I missing here? God forbid a woman of color seek any kind of protection, have all the evidence there, and yet still law enforcement is like, no, can't do anything about it. And again, I definitely do appreciate the fact that they removed the firearms from this person's possession. But the reality is if this person is targeting one person in particular with their nonsense, they're probably going to look for other means by which to execute their objectives, shall we say. Either way, it's very disheartening, and I really hope that Seattle prosecutors take a second look, and a damn good look, at the evidence there, because it seems like there should be sufficient evidence to do something about this individual. And I definitely hope that Congresswoman Jayapal is as safe as can be, as well as her family. And let's go ahead and turn to another instance of, let's say, some interesting behavior, but this is definitely more lighthearted, shall we say, and it's up in Pennsylvania. So the lieutenant governor there, John Fetterman, well, he is keeping up his beef with his opponent, the Republican opponent, that's Mehmet Oz, also known as Dr. Oz. You may recognize John Fetterman. Here is a picture of him. Well, he's getting ready to start campaigning again after he had a stroke, and he is intent on winning his primary, he did win his primary, but he's intent on really winning his position. And recently, Fetterman has been trolling Dr. Oz on Twitter, who's running for Senate there, bringing his attention to Oz's residence in New Jersey. Yeah, that's right. Even though he's out here running in Pennsylvania, yeah, he actually lives in Jersey. And that's despite the fact, again, he lives in Pennsylvania, but is running in New Jersey. And this whole beef, well, it really kind of first started when Oz released this video in response to the Philly mayor saying that he'll be happy once he's not mayor anymore.
A surgeon never ever gives up on his patient, especially when lives are on the line. And a mayor whose most important responsibility is to keep citizens safe should never give up on the city they represent. Unfortunately, that is exactly what Philadelphia Mayor Jim Kenney is doing. He gave up on Philadelphia a long time ago, but recently he admitted he will be happy when he's no longer mayor. Kenney's lack of leadership has resulted in out-of-control crime and dangerous streets. I'm here to speak truth to power. Kenney should resign immediately before more lives are lost. But it's more than that. The far-left ideology of Kenney, D.A. Krasner, and John Fetterman put criminals ahead of the community, victims, and all of our safety. These radical left-wing politicians advocate for criminals first. They want shorter sentences for dangerous criminals, sanctuary cities to be a safe haven for criminal illegal immigrants, and cashless bail. I'm not into it.
Yeah, there's a good chance that Dr. Oz should have kept Fetterman's name out of his mouth, because Fetterman wasn't here for it. He pointed this out in a tweet. He said, pro tip, don't film an ad for your PA Senate campaign from your mansion in New Jersey. Yeah, that's right. Especially, again, you're running for the PA Senate campaign, yet you live in New Jersey. And speaking of New Jersey, well, now Fetterman has gotten the Jersey Shore star, Nicole Snooki Laval, to let Dr. Oz know how much Jersey loves him with this cameo.
Hey, Matt, this is Nicole Snooki. And I'm from Jersey Shore. I don't know if you've seen of it before, but I'm a hot mess on a reality show, basically, and I enjoy life. But I heard that you moved from New Jersey to Pennsylvania to look for a new job. And personally, I don't know why anyone would want to leave Jersey, because it's like the best place ever, and we're all hot messes. But I want to say best of luck to you. I know you're away from home and you're in a new place, but Jersey will not forget you. I just want to let you know. I will not forget you. And don't worry, because you'll be back home in Jersey soon. This is only temporary. So good luck. You got this, and Jersey loves you. Mwah.
Isn't that such a nice video? It's so warm-hearted. Don't you love it, Jeff?
Adrienne, we have reached a point in our lives in this country where a TV surgeon who sells supplements that don't work is running for public office in Pennsylvania while living in New Jersey, where the voice of reason is one Snooki. How and when did we get here? I don't know where I am. I'm hungry. I think I need a nap. I'm scared a little bit. It's all good. Hopefully, the people of Pennsylvania can recognize Mehmet Oz for who he is and what he's about, and do the right thing and vote for anyone else other than that, because supplements and selling them when they don't work is apparently affording him a really large mansion in New Jersey. So congrats to him, I guess.
Yeah. And it's funny to me, just in terms of Fetterman isn't a traditional candidate, shall we say, and Oz is not either. And so the fact is they're going to use these non-traditional methods to come at each other. And I find it to be rather entertaining, but I'm really hoping that at the end of the day, we don't see someone who is backing or backed by Donald Trump in any way, in any positions of leadership whatsoever. It doesn't work for me, and I don't think it works for the rest of our nation in terms of our future and what's best for our purported democracy. But that's just my thoughts. And we'll definitely have more of those thoughts coming at you after this break. And as Dr. Richey says, stick and stay. I am your host, Adrienne Lawrence, filling in for Dr. Richey. I want to thank you all for joining us today on this fine Friday. Forgive me, do we have any great comments from these great people out there? I would say we do. That's right. So for YouTube, Chewy Craft, $5 says, I firmly believe EMT should be allowed to cause any amount of property damage against anyone in their way for any reason in an emergency. It's interestingly enough that the police do. And they ain't got no issues. So why EMT shouldn't be able to, I don't know. As far as the armed man arrested outside of the home of Representative Jayapal, well, C. Michael Henson with the $10, thank you, sir, says, are these police officers on loan from Uvalde? That's a good question. Took away one gun like he doesn't have others, that's right. These officers are complicit in these threats. Some would probably help if they didn't have the badge. Alejandra Maldonado Domexia says, I'm tired of this left-wing militias, Black Panther Party style militias, and let's work as bodyguards for representatives because at this point, justice can only come from our hands. I think Jayapal can request special help or protection from either the Secret Service or one of the government entities, and I think she should, without a doubt, because you cannot, Seattle PD ain't here for you. Dana Scully says, why is he not in jail? I think the answer is obvious, unfortunately. Yeah, it's a good question. It's too bad we didn't have a picture of his mugshot because I think that probably would have confirmed a lot of things. I'm just saying. Fat guy named Tiny says, that's what you're missing, Adrienne. The police as a collective do not regard people of color as people in the first place. Yeah, for some reason, this Black woman had no idea about that. Thank you for educating me on it. DI Evolve says, Rep Jayapal getting attacked is a terrible story. And the fact that the mainstream media is not covering it seems like they are part of the problem by radicalizing people through misinforming them. It'd almost be like the vast majority of news media is white and male. Oh, it's odd how that works. As far as Fetterman trolling Dr. Oz with the Snooki cameo, well, fat guy named Tiny also says, I've never loved Snooki more than right now. Agreed. That woman is a gift that keeps on giving. Red Light Robot says, who would have thunk that Jersey Shore is more snarky and salient than the entire Biden administration? This is a fever dream, right? Hey, Make You See the Silverhead Dragon says, as a lifelong sarcastic wise ass, I just love Fetterman's ads. Perfect. Yeah, I'm a fan of some of the things that Fetterman is doing without a doubt, because a lot needs to be done, especially when you are talking to people, talking about people like Dr. Oz. And I would also say that a lot needs to be done when you're talking about people from the Musk family. We know Elon got sued this week, and he also got news that he has another sibling out there. That's right, Elon Musk's father has come out, and turns out he has a second child with his 35-year-old stepdaughter. Interesting how that works. Yeah, 35-year-old stepdaughter. So for some of the context here, Elon Musk, who is in this picture here, picture on the left, well, he married Jana. I'm not even gonna try to say her last name. Yeah, well, he married her mother for about 18 years. And well, she and Musk decided to have 2 children together, even though Musk raised Jana since she was 4 years old. Now, the elder Musk, who is 41 years older than Jana, well, he told the son that he welcomed a daughter with her almost 3 years ago. They also happen to have a son, Elliot Rush, who is now 5. That would be their first child together. Now, Errol has told the son his purported second child with Jana was unplanned, but that he was living with her after the birth of their son. Now, apparently the 2 are not living together anymore. They're not in a romantic relationship, nor do they, stay under the same home in any form or fashion. But Errol understands, hey, there's an age gap here. He said this, But the thing is, it's not practical. She's 35 next birthday, so she's getting on. So eventually, if I'm still around, she might wind up back with me. It's difficult, you know? I mean, I would much rather have them here, but Jana came and spent a few days here about 6 months ago, and the kids were starting to get on my nerves. That's interesting. It's kind of like, is she getting possibly too old for him in terms of turning 35? But then, him being around the children that he fathered with his stepdaughter are annoying him. And so he wants the kids to go away, which this speaks to the caliber of this man. Now, obviously, Errol's other kids aren't too fond of this relationship. Mind you, I believe he has 7 kids in total. Well, this per the Sun, tech CEO Elon was reported to have gone berserk when he found out that his South African engineer father was having a child with Jana, who lived with him while they were growing up. That's right, Elon's sister. Errol does admit his other daughters were also shocked by his relationship with Jana because to them it was their sister, because it is their sister. And he added that they still don't like it. They still feel a bit creepy about it because, once again, she's their sister, their half sister. In some cases, their stepsister, but that unifying feature of sister seems to be on the table. Now, despite his older age, it seems that Errol is down to have more kids too. This per the Sun, as for having more children, Errol said, the only thing we are on earth for is to reproduce. If I could have another child, I would. I can't see any reason not to. I can. It might be the fact that you are a disgusting human being and passing along your genes is problematic for the rest of the human race. But that's just my opinion. But it's interesting because it definitely seems that Elon Musk seems to have this same mentality of this thought that he should go forth and populate, as he's up to now 10 children. I do not understand why these men are spreading their seed at such a, let's say, very irresponsible and dangerous rate, but I really wish they'd stop because it's clear that they're not really invested in raising them. Jeff.
What in the Woody Allen did you just talk to me about? How, when this news went down, how did groomer, the term groomer, which is thrown around recklessly, how did that not trend on Twitter? I am so confused by the Musk family because okay, so they clearly want to go to Mars and repopulate there. Since they can't do it, I guess the next best thing is just impregnate a bunch of people and have their seeds running around doing all kinds of nonsense. I think I need a shower. I'm a go. Cold one, this is gross.
Yeah, absolutely disgusting. And the fact that you have already all these kids and they're completely uncomfortable with the fact of you sexing their sister, your stepdaughter, who you've known since she was 4 and participated in raising. I could imagine that this family is extraordinarily dysfunctional. And the thought that also Elon's out here populating the free world, it's extremely scary. What about showing these children support, love, investing in them as people, as opposed to just skeeting and putting them out on the streets? I don't understand it. I think it's a problem. And this is the kind of situation where people need to get involved and make it stop. But again, that's just my thoughts. Jeff, any last thoughts?
Get involved. To the windows, to the wall.
Fair. I think I walked into that. Yeah, okay. All right, we are gonna move on to another story. This one also comes to us from abroad. It's about a white woman, out in Spain. She was called out on social media for stealing the work of a Black artist. Yeah, here are the 2 artists in question here. Check out their pictures. The Spanish artist pictured on the left, that's Gala Noor. She's accused of plagiarizing the work of the Black queer artist Day Day on the right. So this is what we know about the situation. Essentially that people really picked up that there were glaring similarities between Noor's painting, particularly the young cowboy gazing, and Day Day's short film Blue, a film about Black cowboys that discusses segregation, whitewashing, and Black erasure in the history of cowboys and the rodeo. And so according to Paper Mag, several people pointed out the hypocrisy of Noor, a white artist perpetuating Black erasure through her work, which is the very issue she said that she wanted to highlight. Now, Blue Assistant Director Nichelle Knox also commented on the situation, telling Rolling Stone she could have used this opportunity to highlight the team or highlight Isaac Redfern, the Blue actor Nor portrayed in her paintings. And unfortunately, she didn't. Knox added that it makes the intention of the art and her message very questionable. Nor said in a statement that she simply made a mistake. But of course, that mistake was very profitable for her. Yeah, Nor and the museum, not just really any museum, but I think it's like the Guggenheim, if you've heard of it. Well, they eventually reached a solution with Day Day. Rather than taking down Nor's paintings, well, Blue will now be exhibited alongside the artist's statement, which now also says that Nor directly incorporates images inspired from the 5-minute film Blue. That's an interesting use of a term, plagiarized, directly incorporating. Like, come on now, let's just, nonsense. Anyway, another news story related to the theft of a Black artist actually also happened. Aaron DeGroff, that's a director of the Orlando Museum of Art, was fired recently about 5 days after the FBI seized 25 purportedly fake paintings on display that were contested attribution to the late artist Jean-Michel Basquiat. Yeah, so there were some Basquiat paintings that appear to be forged, and the FBI ran in and raided the joint, which is something they rarely do. I'm talking like, because they have an art division, maybe once every 20 years. Anyway, yeah, so this Orlando Museum of Art really tried it and they got caught. But if these paintings had been authentic, well, the Basquiat paintings would be worth around $100 million. This really seems to speak to the fact that there are so many Black artists and thinkers, contributors with incredible talent in our society, yet there seem to be so many white people willing to latch onto it, dig their talents in and claim it as their own. Oof, wow, it just seems to be something that we are seeing a lot of. Jeff.
So for our older generation, this is the equivalent of Elvis being put on as the white Negro while Chuck Berry and Sister Rosetta Tharpe get nothing. And for our younger generation, this is the TikTok thing where white artists and white TikTokers were stealing dances without citing their references. And I just want to point out that the artist, when she said that she made a mistake, I've made mistakes before. I've spilled milk. Looking at a painting, or in this case, a movie, and drawing and painting what that was is not a mistake. Making art is a long, drawn out process that she had to do over a long period of time. That's not a mistake. That's not a lapse in judgment. That was deliberate, and I'm glad that it came out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, you can't tell me you didn't steal that. You stole that, you misappropriated, you jacked, you can say anything you want. You look at it and you can't tell me that that wasn't something that you were looking to exploit in some way, based on my opinion. And for her, and also the Guggenheim, I believe that was the museum, for it to even leave it up. When she said, I was trying to make a point of stealing Black people's work being wrong, so I stole Black people's work. Like, get out of here with that mess. I just don't understand how you have these historically, generally white institutions, as well as white people who are ripping off Black people's work and then trying to profit from it. And the way the system continues to bolster and uphold that, it's disgusting, but it also makes it so that we Black people don't want to even contribute our art.
Yeah, and I'm just glad you mentioned this, because yeah, her art still remains up in addition to the correction being made. So great, I guess that's some degree of justice that you and I have been bringing up from time to time during today, but it's not complete. It's incomplete because her work should be taken down because it's a fabrication. It's false. She's lying. She didn't cite her references.
Without a doubt, claiming that it is her own. There's no accountability as far as I'm concerned, because adding that asterisk ain't gonna do it. Not only do I need any kind of money or any kind of gains that you received as a result of that art, I need your name to forever be associated with plagiarism because it's problematic. But that's something I would need. I'm gonna leave it to the other people, Day Day and his team to handle it, or their team to handle it. I completely respect that. But we are now at the end of our show, and as we close out this Friday, I am super excited to enter the weekend. Jeff, where can people find your work, whether it's this weekend or well into the future?
Well, they can find me on Rebel HQ every day, every week, and I have a YouTube channel called We Gonna Be Alright. You can find me there. Please subscribe. And I don't like talking about myself specifically, so also on Rebel HQ, we got Ben Glebe, we've got Kyla Franks, and we have Jessica Burbank. They are also content creators, and they do a fantastic job.
Fantastic. We also got Adrienne Lawrence, and yeah, so you can find my work there at Rebel HQ. Thanks so much for joining us and for watching, and we will catch you back on Monday.
Welcome to Indisputable. I'm your host, Dr. Rashad Richey. We got a lot happening today. But what do we do on this show? We tell the truth. You know why we tell the truth? Because the truth is simply indisputable.
Rashad, great to be here. Congratulations on the new show. And I gotta let everybody know that Rashad and I go way back.
Here's the pattern that we see in all of these Karen stories. They think they own stuff they do not own. Now, where does that come from? I don't know, maybe slavery. Maybe they think they should still own black people.
This is what happens when Karens weaponize the police.
When you're used to privilege, equality seems like oppression.
It hits you in a certain way when someone is holding you against your will, treating you like you're a criminal and you're an innocent person. This is something that black people face no matter where they are.
A stronger black economy lends itself to a stronger, greater economy. Don't think it's exclusive of you, it's inclusive of you.
What's your beef with critical race theory?
It adds more fuel to the fire of the racist tendencies that we already have.
We have a generation of problem solvers that can remedy the problem if they are properly taught what the problem is.
You know who created redlining in this country? It was a white liberal.
I don't give a damn who created it. If it's a racist policy, Shelley, here's what I don't know. I don't know. See, there you go filibustering, brother. You're scared of this truth, but you're gonna get it though.